Is there any more questions? Comments? You want to wrap up, Bing, or what?
Sure. Well, Qianqian, on behalf of the Loren Eiseley Society, I want to thank you on behalf of our board for taking the time to prepare this, taking your evening to present this to us. I was looking forward to seeing what you would come up with when I met you in 2014 briefly. And I know Tom was your host in Lincoln for quite a while. So I appreciate Tom spending all that time hosting you. And we're very, very pleased with your presentation. I think it's very thought-provoking and is in many ways a continuation of some of the things that we're trying to do here with the society to bring Eiseley more into the main cultural movements of our day and his relevance and topical necessity of being introduced into our current civilization. So thank you very much for doing this. It's good to see everybody that could attend. Adam, good to see you again. Look forward to seeing you again in future meetings. And I guess Craig was here and Suzanne. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate the comments from George and Tom and Ray. So if no one else has any questions, I think we will go ahead and adjourn for this session.
So I was wondering if they had publications. I remember looking at it, I don't know, 15 years ago or something, and then it seems like it ceased. And I'm just curious whether they had newsletters or back when we were a little more print oriented.
Yeah, they do. This is the same organization. We simply changed the name because when they were called the Friends of Loren Eiseley, they were literally the Friends of Loren Eiseley, when they started. And we decided to a while back to change the name. And our website has all of the old newsletters that they had produced, plus some of the more recent newsletters that we produced. So if you go to the Loren Eiseley Society website and poke around, you should come up with those.
Okay, great. Well, my father was a friend of Loren Eiseley, actually, and he was a co-worker in the fossil digging parties and the South Party in the 1930s with him. So I grew up in a house with all of his books and grew to like him, especially the poetry. And so I've gotten reinterested in him again. So this is great to discover you folks keeping the torch alive here.
Okay.
We asked what your father's name was.
Yeah, Frank Craybill.
Oh, sure.
He's mentioned in the biography Fox at the Wood's Edge several times, and there's a photo with some of the South Party folks there. My dad's on the right there.
Wow.
What can you share with us? Is your name Richard then?
No, Robert. Robert Craybill.
What can you share with us, your father's memories of his youth, you might say?
I didn't really get a whole lot from him. He passed away in 2008. Actually reading the chapter, I think it's called Mauvaise Terre, Badlands, in the biography, I learned more than I really learned from my dad. He didn't talk about Eiseley too much, but my dad actually, mentioned the digging years, and they were summers, of course, in between studies in Lincoln. My dad was a farm boy from Red Cloud and wasn't terribly oriented toward the earth, I don't think. His bunch eventually moved into town and gave up farming. It was the Dust Bowl years and everything, but my dad was a keen finder of arrowheads and, you know, later fossils on the South Party expeditions. And he ended up moving east. Actually, he became a Rhodes Scholar and spent some years in Oxford, 37, 38, I think it was, and then settled in Connecticut, got a job in New York City as a lawyer. And he and I participated in one of the South Party reunions, which was mentioned in the book. I kind of lost track of what year it would have been, but according to the book, it must have been 1973. And that was kind of a fun thing to see these, you know, I was, 19 and going off. It was only my second trip to Nebraska. I still haven't been back since, but it was kind of fun to see these old timers. They seemed to me then, you know, 60-year-olds, 40 years later, scrabbling around in the Badlands in these draws and cuts, and whoever organized it found us a very prolific source of fossils. They were just sitting right on top of the ground. All cleaned off and everything. So I still have some fossils from that trip in 1973. And as is mentioned in Fox at the Wood's Edge, Eiseley characteristically, I guess, avoided both of the reunions, 1973 and 1975. Although I'm sure a lot of people would have liked to meet him again. I met him once, just a total coincidence, at my college graduation in 1975. He was there to pick up yet another honorary degree in Connecticut, where I went to school. So my dad got to meet him after 40 years and say, you know, that he appreciated his writings. So that's most of what I know on this, but I'm become a fossil fan and a mineral collector, so something took root there, maybe genetic, I don't know.
So are you living back east now, Robert?
No, I'm in California and have been actually since shortly after my graduation in 1975. I'm in the San Francisco area, so.
I see. Did you take up some of what your father did, or what is your profession?
Well, no, he was a lawyer, and I became a librarian. So I'm just recently retired myself. I was in the San Francisco Public Library, so, and a bit of a book collector and reader, as you might expect.
So where did you go to school in Connecticut? Was it where did you graduate from? I'm curious to see if his commencement address is available anywhere.
Well, the school was Trinity College, which is in Hartford, Connecticut. It's quite an old school. You can contact them. I don't remember if he gave a speech beyond a few words and whether those would have been recorded, but you can contact them. It was definitely spring of 1975.
Interesting. Yeah, I got to know Ray Bradbury in his later years, and tell me little stories of him attending Eiseley talks and berating him, reading notes, and basically said, throw those notes away. You know your topic far better than any set of notes you can possibly write. Speak from your heart. And I thought, well, that does sound like Ray Bradbury. He was not afraid to tell his mentee what he thought. And so Ray was fond of remembering that. I don't remember which school this was at, but he actually attended a talk, commencement talk by Eiseley, and probably about that time or earlier. So, so it's very interesting to hear you talk about your father being one of the original members of that South Party, and your meeting as a 19-year-old. How many of the members came? Do you remember who they were?
I don't, but it is covered in some detail in Fox at the Wood's Edge, the biography, the book you held up there. As I said, there was some disappointment that Eiseley couldn't make it, and he did not go to the one. Apparently, there was a second one in 1975, and he was not able to go then either. So, and he only lived, I think, a couple years after that.
Yeah. I don't know how he was feeling by that time. So, very interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Robert. I really appreciate your reminiscences of that period, and that you still happen to have a lot of the Eiseley books. So, when you're 19, looking at us, I mean, we're the old ones now.
Pretty much, yeah.
In Qianqian's little poem there, we're the old ones now. So, well, Qianqian, again, thank you so very much for your presentation.
Thank you for having me.